Hi, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of D2Football.com's NSIC Weekly Podcast. My name is Tom Frederick. I'm the radio voice for the University of Sioux Falls Cougars, apparently known around these parts as Mr. USF, according to some of our loyal fan base, or so my partner in crime, the guy over on the other side of the screen there, Matt Witwicky, has told me. Matt is the Northern Sun Conference columnist for D2. He's captaining this ship. There's a lot to get to this week. A game of the week that lived up to its billing, a one-sided rivalry game that did not, a guest, and a look back at a massive failure by our fearless leaders. Does that tease things sufficiently, Whit?
I think so. We had ourselves a good time this last weekend. We had Brandon Meisner, the owner-operator of D2 Football, come on down and visit from Kansas City. And he did so for the Key to the City game. And, we kind of had a good time with it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here later. But we're also going to go ahead and kind of go through the news of the week as well.
Yeah, let's get the ball rolling with the week that was. As you know, the NSIC has recognized 3 players for production on the field for Saturday, September 30th. First one.
Give me a sec to pull it on up, my friend. Right when I did that, then all of a sudden it didn't come up for us. So let's go ahead and see, Tom.
Well, you can't get a good producer anymore, you know what?
already off to a good start on this one, Tom.
Where's Morty when you need him, or Freddie D. Cordova, or James Burrows?
Oh, now you're going back on all the old stuff for us.
Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg.
There we have it.
Finally got it. The ball rolling here. Augustana graduate student Casey Bauman is the offensive player, earning the honor for Week 5. All the 6'7", 225-pound quarterback from the state of Washington did was carve up the University of Sioux Falls defense with 6 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown of his own for good measure, as the Vikings rolled to their third Key to the City game win, 49-29. Bauman looked really sharp as the Vikings remain unbeaten.
Tom, I thought he looked like the quarterback that Augie fans were hoping he could be. Strong, arm, hard to tackle ball carrier. And, he's been healthy this year, and the Vikings are 5-0.
On the defensive side, Mankato senior linebacker Jacob Dalton from Hudson, Wisconsin, was a major factor in the Mavericks' 27-24 road win at Bemidji, among the top 2 teams in the league. Dalton had 10 tackles, a sack, and an interception in the end zone as the Mavericks emerged from the game of the week unblemished. They, too, 5-0.
He was on our Elite 100 team for best players in the country in Division II leading into the year. He was huge in this win and maybe as important a performance as they could have had in this contest.
For the special teamer fans out there, the sophomore wide receiver from Cumberland, Wisconsin, Deshaun Ames, is the honoree this week. The Minnesota Duluth kick returner brought back the second half kickoff, 93 yards to the house, as the Bulldogs easily handled Winona 38-14. And for good measure, Ames, again, a wide receiver, threw a touchdown pass on a gadget play for UMD.
Yeah, Ames was a guy I was expecting to be kind of more involved in the passing game. Now, he has been involved, but, he's also being utilized in the kick return game. He's got some carries as a runner, and, heck, he even got used to throw the ball because, UMD kind of keeps you off balance that way. So he certainly did have a big week.
He was an impressive wide receiver a couple weeks ago up in Duluth when USF went up there and dropped a 42-34 decision. Time now to recap Week 5. Mankato, Duluth, Augie all remain unbeaten. They're 5-0. The NSIC lost the non-conference tilt on last week's schedule to fall to 5-2 against outside foes. But before we delve into all of that, our faithful podcast followers, we're going to start up in Moorhead, Minnesota. And welcome to the show, the coach of the Minnesota State University Moorhead Dragons in his 12th season, Steve Lockway. Coach, welcome to NSIC Weekly, or as Witt fondly calls it, the pod.
The pod. Well, thanks for having me into the pod here.
Coach, your Dragons came back from a early 10-0 hole and kind of easily ends up handling Northern State 45-26 this last week. You guys generated over 500 yards of offense. You get 4 more scoring passes from Jack Strand, your sophomore quarterback. While only, you were able to limit Northern State getting 3 picks and keeping them to right around 100 yards rushing, and you improved to 3-2. After watching the film of the game, what were some of your thoughts?
Well, was proud of how our guys played. I think, we talked about different challenges they would face throughout the game, the beginning of the game, the, adversity that's going to show up. And it's one of those games that we felt like everything we talked about beforehand kind of unfolded in a sequential pattern. I thought when we got down 10-0, there was no panic. Our guys felt really good about where we were, just understood that we had to kind of weather the storm, and we did. And after that 10-0, and, it was kind of a 38-3 run from there. And I think, that kind of took care of itself from that standpoint. So it was good to see the poise and then obviously be able to respond and play really good football for a good stretch.
I'm going to pull one of my chestnuts out of the fire here. I ask it of coaches all the time. You're at the halfway point of the season. It's midterm time, coach. Grade your ball club sitting at 3-2.
Well, it's kind of a tough thing. You can look at both ways. You can look and say, we got 3 wins, but I think a combined win total of those 3 teams that we've beaten, I think, is at 1. And you can look and say we got 2 losses. Well, you look at that, and I think the combined loss total of those 2 is 1. And we, both of them on the road combined 12 points. So, it's hard to say, really. I think we're still kind of in no man's land of, how good are we going to be? Are we good? Are we just kind of knocking on the door and scratching, or are we something that's getting better every week? And so I think we've done a lot of things real well, but I think we got a lot of things that we got to improve if we're going to get ourselves over the hump.
I've got a ball game going on in my corner over here, and obviously Rocco Baldelli is too busy with that to call you about the pitch count of your quarterback. Jack Strand, another 48 attempts on Saturday. He's hoisted 260 passes in 5 weeks. That's better than 50 a game. That's more than 100 attempts better than the next closest quarterback. That's Brandon Alt. As also the quarterback coach of this offense, Coach Lockway, it's pretty clear you feel the passing game is the key to the offense's success. How and when did you come to that realization that if we're going to win, it's got to be through the air?
Well, I think as the season went last year, we could see that Jack was special with what he could do as a true freshman in the offense and his arm. And we thought as spring went and fall camp, he continued to grow, continued to get better, quick through the reads, made great decisions. He can process things really quickly. And I think we just look at the team, and you want to always leverage your strengths. And we felt like that was a strength. Our wide receivers, we feel, are really talented. And so it's kind of a strength piece, and it's kind of a numbers, if you think about it from, if it were basketball terms, you want to feed the guy that's got the best chance of making the shots, and he's got the best chance of making the plays. So we might as well put the ball in his hand and allow him to do things. And I think he's done a great job spreading the targets out. Last week we had almost 450 yards passing, but we didn't have any receivers that were over 100 yards receiving. So we're definitely, people talk about being balanced and maybe say that we're not because we throw it so much, but is balance run to pass, or is balance spreading it out to a bunch of different players catching the football and spreading out to a lot of different areas on the field? And so I think we're maybe that definition of balanced, as far as we're going to get to a lot of different guys in a lot of different areas of the field, and that's how we're going to balance out.
Was Strand highly recruited out of high school, or did you see something in him that others, overlooked?
Well, I think if you probably look at it a lot, he was at the camps and did the circuits, and people saw him, and I think he had 1 scholarship offer. So, maybe he had another one or not, but he's a guy that we felt really good about it, and was in there. And so we're glad that he's a Dragon.
I bet you
absolutely. Coach, your offense is getting obviously a lot of the headlines up there in Moorhead, but your defense has quietly shown signs of improvement as well. I thought that they were pivotal in this win this last week against Northern. Jesse Courier has been your DC, and he's mixing up a lot of looks with you guys up front. And you guys were, allowing 29 points a game a year ago. Now you're at 23 this year. What do you feel this group is doing better year to year?
Well, I think Jesse's done a fabulous job. He's growing our defense. He's understanding who our players are, what we can do, what our strengths are, and then trying to leverage that. And sometimes, that is through different looks. Sometimes it's being static, and sometimes it's not. And so I think we've done a really good job with that. And, our defense has got to play against a lot of plays. Offensively, we're running a lot of plays, more than I think most teams in the league, but we're also having to defend a lot more too.
Right.
And so they're out there and they're susceptible more than a lot of teams. And so I think being able to develop some depth, I think D-line wise, defensive back wise, that's helped us in particular. And so we're growing, we're getting better. I think a year aging, all our guys, we're a young team, but we were an experienced team coming in. And so we just got to continue to grow that. We don't have a big senior class. And so we got some real things that we can continue to build on if we can keep things going in the right direction.
Back in the day, Coach, you were hired at Moorhead directly from the high school ranks, from Fargo Shanley. Everybody knows that the transition from high school player to college player is it's a process. You knew the ropes of the college game. You were an assistant at multiple stops in college football, but how big of an adjustment was it on the coaching side directly from Fargo Shanley to MSU Moorhead?
Yeah, the direct jump was big in the sense of there's so many different layers of the program that you're overseeing, going after, and I could do a lot of them by myself when it was high school. I could be in the weight room. There was a strength coach, but I was at every lift. I was at the practices. I coached on offense and on defense. And then obviously at this level, I can't run all the workouts. I'm not coaching on both sides of the ball. And so it's then you're talking about recruiting, you're talking about alumni. So I think it was just overseeing a lot more things, obviously, than what you did at the high school level. Certainly wasn't something that I wasn't maybe aware of or what it took. And so it took a while to get us out of a dumpster fire. I think we were at rock bottom, maybe had been digging for a while and had to dig out in a lot of areas of our program, whether it was academically, fundraising wise, recruiting, whatever it might be. And so it's been a long process. It's been a rewarding process, and we're still working to keep climbing the ladder.
Coach, you guys obviously have Mankato coming up this Saturday on the grass at the Blake. Going to be a huge test for your Dragons, of course. We had Coach Hoffner on our Sunday evening show, Inside D2 Football, and asked him about, the squad that he's got next on the schedule. I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of what he had to say, and then we'll come back to you, okay? Coach, up next, you guys have the Dragons of Moorhead. They're 3-2. Their two losses are against Wayne State and Augustana that they both played within a score on the road. They just beat Northern State in a pretty one-sided contest. What challenges do they present to your Mavs squad?
I don't know if I'm going to sleep this week, to be really frank with you. I mean, they are a machine on offense. They can throw the ball at will. They throw it 55 to 65 times a game, right? If they run, I told our defensive staff they better start cheering and tell them to keep doing it again. Quarterback is outstanding. Receivers are phenomenal. The line knows what they're doing, right? They know how to protect. They're when you average 38 points a game as an offense, and they played two pretty exceptional teams. One's undefeated right now, and the other one's 4-1. And they were within a touchdown of both of them. And so I told our guys, you better not think that these guys are anything but great, because they have the potential to hang and stick with anybody when it comes to scoring points and, making the game tight and competitive.
Coach, obviously some nice words from Coach Hoffner about your squad. When you throw on the tape of the Mavs, what do you see for you guys to contend with?
Oh, we see a team that's won a lot of games, that plays physical. They play, if you look at the two different styles of play, it's probably on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum, from leading and rushing to leading and passing to, you look at what their guy can do from a rushing yard standpoint in one game. That's probably, we haven't done that in the season combined, and on the flip side, I think their leading receiver has 11 catches, and that's, probably what Well, we've had guys that have done that multiple times in one game. And so it's two different styles of two different recipes to try and win football games. Obviously, we know they're a really great football team. They've been a great football team for a long time. They do it year after year. They've got talented players. They know how to win. You don't win that many games by overlooking teams. They take care of their business. They're very detailed in their coaching. So we're if he's not sleeping, we're definitely not sleeping, on that standpoint. It's how it is. And the league is tough. And this is, if you want to measure yourself nationally where you need to be, this is one of the teams you obviously do that against. And it's been a long time since we've played them. And so it's been a while since we've seen that buzzsaw up close and in the teeth. And we're fairly confident it's going to show up in our teeth again. And we're going to have to see how we can handle it. And hopefully we can weather a storm. And like you said, hang in there as best we can. And, God willing, we got a shot at the end to make something happen.
When you talk to your ball club, how do you convince them that you guys can pull off a win similar to USD at NDSU that just happened, up north this last weekend? How do you talk to them?
Well, you just got to create a belief every week. And sometimes you got to figure out how to sell snow to Eskimos. And so you figure that out, and that's something that we try and just do. We try and focus as much as we can on us. So, we can't control the talent and the ability of the teams we're playing each week, but we can control ourselves. And can we draw on strength from each other? Can we each do a little bit of the lifting, and everybody does our part, and slowly but surely we maybe find a way to tip the scale as the course of the game? Can we find the extra oomph that we need, collectively, whether that's extra film or whatever, whether it's an extra play here, a little, pat on the butt as someone's going through the game and pick them up and get them rolling. And so we got to find ways to leverage kind of the unseen pieces of the game. And that's the things we can control. And that's what we talk about. And, we've got to put ourselves in position to be able to make plays when we get a chance.
Well, you know what, Coach, you guys a lot of people are noticing what you guys are doing so far this season. And, a lot of people are saying they are a dangerous club. I'm hearing that from a lot of coaches around the league. So we wanted to give you kudos. You guys are off to a great start.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Coach Steve Lockway from MSU Moorhead, for joining us on NSIC Weekly. Best wishes for the rest of the season, Coach. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and Sioux Falls comes up there a week from Saturday.
Sounds great.
Thank you. All right, we've got that out of the way, Will. I'm all excited here, Will. The long national nightmare is over. 18 games in the postseason. The losing streak has ended. Twins win, Twins win, Twins win.
Is that right?
Yes. All right.
Okay.
We're talking football. Bring back up your screen there, my friend. There we go.
I was right on it. Don't be trying to play like I wasn't paying attention. I was on it.
Continuing the Week 5 recap. UMary fell 37-34 at Concordia St. Paul. The Marauders still have yet to taste victory. The Bears knocking on the door of a 500 season. They rushed for nearly 300 yards in this contest. 170 plus of those courtesy one Jalen Richardson.
Yeah, you know what? I watched the front portion of this game, and he's really impressive. He would be more of a household name if he was playing for a top squad, to be honest. You can say a lot about a lot of guys, but he really has nice moves, good quickness, and cuts well. And, on the other side, this was the best showing by Mary so far this season. They were just short, but you can see progress for certain.
I'll be at Seafoam Stadium on Saturday. Get to see Jalen Richardson live and in color as USF visits the Golden Bears. Continuing on the Week 5 recap here, Winona State went to my old hometown of Duluth, visiting the top 5 Bulldogs. Came out of Molosky Stadium with another loss. 38-14 final there. All Duluth. Bulldogs limited Winona to approximately 30 yards on the ground. That was it. Quarterback Kyle Walljasper had another Walljasper day. All he did was run for more than 100 yards and throw for 3 more touchdowns.
Yeah, he's just a handful every week. UMD with 8 sacks in this game. Yikes. Drew Hennessy had 3.5 of those. Now leads the conference with a total of 7. A week ago, I felt like Winona had taken 2 steps forward offensively and, really put together a complete game against Northern State. And At Duluth, I thought they took a step back, and it's starting to look like the Warriors are really tough at home, but on the road, they're going to need to get a little bit better.
Speaking of the road, Wayne State University schlepped to Minot State. Wildcats won easily, just shy of Canada, 48-22. Quarterback Nick Bowen ran for 2 scores, threw for 2 scores, and Latravius Boyd, man, he had himself a day. 3 touchdowns while amassing more than 190 yards rushing.
Yeah, I've been kind of waiting for Boyd to become a bigger part of their offense. I think we saw some signs of that at Minot. Wayne is definitely coming on.
Well, in my game, we talked about it already. The Vikings secured the key to the city for just the 3rd time. Quarterback Casey Bauman, one-man wrecking crew, 6 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown rushing. 2 of his touchdowns went to Devin Jones. Another 2 went to Canyon Bauer. Sioux Falls has surprisingly lost those 3 key to the city games at Bob Young Field, where they typically win about 85% of the time. I just can't figure that out, Witt.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where it's just weird that USF seems to really rise to the challenge. When they go into the KO, but this year I felt was a little bit different for all the reasons that we kind of talked about coming in. But let's go ahead for a moment and kind of appreciate a little bit of what I thought was the best crowd that I had seen so far at any game at University of Sioux Falls. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up a picture or two here to kind of document a little bit of that. You can see the Augie side, and I thought the reason for this was because Augie came out in force, and you could see they filled up the home side. They had folks under the scoreboard area. They had folks on the grass area on the north side of the stadium. I really thought Augie was easily the best attendance they've had at this game. And, the University of Sioux Falls, sometimes they don't have that upper tank filled up, Tom, and they certainly did here. And and then on the main level, goal line to goal line and people up in that pavilion area. So, I mean, I know that they listed attendance at 5,100 in this one. I think this was nothing short of 6,000, and because they've had other games that they've got listed over 5,000. I've been at them, and there wasn't nearly as many folks at those games as there was this one. So, but in kind of moving along with the game, you take a look. I thought that Coach OJ and his group, I just frankly thought that USF's inability to get to the quarterback would cost them in this game, and it really did. The Vikings had plenty of open receivers and just too much talent on the perimeter for the Cougars this time around. I felt the USF offense did better than worse, but they still need to find a way to stretch the field a little bit. And I wanted to make a note here. I thought it was a classy move by Coach OJ, who's obviously holding the key here, on how they handled the kickoff at the end of the game when the ball was placed in Augie territory after some penalties. They could have pooched it, and they didn't. They just kicked it deep. They shook hands first before they went for the key. These points were things that weren't missed on myself. I got the impression, even talking to Coach Glow for USF after the game, he noticed that as well. So I wanted to kind of give kudos in regard to that. I thought that was a classy move.
And congratulations to Coach Olszewski as well. It was his 100th career win. 68 of those at Augustana. And both teams, you have to admit, and the crowd had to overcome some adversity. We had 2 lightning delays, which delayed the opening kickoff about an hour and 7 minutes. So instead of starting at 1, we didn't go until 2:07. And looking at you, Witt, I can see you were out in that sun a little bit longer than you really needed to be or wanted to be on Saturday.
Yeah. I noticed before the kickoff that clearly I was getting more sun than I needed to. So that's when we came up and joined you guys in the booth for a little bit of a time killer. And I'm sure the fans got entertained by that.
Yeah, I had to have a jacket on up in the press box. The air conditioning was on high up there, man. Oh, good. In the battle of top 10 teams in what was the game of the year in the Northern Sun Conference, in my opinion, Minnesota State Mankato won at Bemidji State 27-17. to 24. Witt, as Warner Wolf would say back in the day, let's go to the videotape.
And here we are. So we get a chance to see Bemidji, gets out early, goes ahead and gets a score, and they're up early in this contest. You get a chance to see Mankato. They're known for the running game, but they take a shot down the field there for a score, and all of a sudden take the lead. Mr. Alt and company going ahead and doing a pump and go, getting a completion down the sidelines. He was held without a touchdown pass in this contest, something you don't hear very often. There's that pick that we talked about earlier, Tom. Quite a catch by the backer there. Did you notice that?
Jacob Dalton, denied that touchdown pass of Alt.
Yeah, and then there goes that man, Shane Butler Lawson. Yeah, the only guy who might catch him is going to be his wideout. And so huge score for him there on his way to over 220 yards. Then, they did get some successful plays. Bemidji did on the ground, I think, to surprise some people there. Sage Booker, and then we've got Ali Muhammad getting in. And, all of a sudden, the game is back and forth. Nice pick here by Bemidji. Heck of a play. And, the Mavs are clinging to a 3-point lead. Punt goes off the back of a player on Mankato, and Bemidji gets on it inside the red zone. And, you can see Lake Bemidji behind us there. They're scoring a touchdown here. They think they're going to jump in there, Tom, for, after the game. But all of a sudden, wait a second, Mankato scores a tud here. And then the field goal, a little bit of bad snap, doesn't quite get there. And you know what, guys? Sorry, kids, pool's closed. Mavs come on out as a 3-point winner, and a heck of a ball game. And, I think that this says, validates to some extent, even in the loss, that Bemidji State is literally right there with Mankato. And if Mankato's a top 5 team, I don't think Bemidji's far from it. When I went to do my poll, I moved them down only to number 10, which I had them before at number 7. And I think that says a lot about how good the Beavers are this year.
I appreciated your poor man's Howard Cosell doing the highlights there. You're not quite Chris Berman-esque either, maybe size-wise, but not when it comes to the fastest 2 minutes in football.
No, and I'm honestly not trying to be, but yes.
All right, non-conference game. I alluded to it at the top of the recap here. Southwest Minnesota State, off from NSIC play last Saturday, went out of conference. They flew to Chicago, then bussed over to Indiana. They had a late lead, but couldn't bring home the dub against a Division I non-scholarship opponent from right there in Witt's backyard.
I kind of felt for the Mustangs because they were winning this game 15-0, Tom. And they were able to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. The defense certainly played their part. They kept Valpo to under 200 yards, had a pick 6 to boot. The SMSU offense has kind of struggled lately to find pay dirt the last few weeks, and it cost them on the road in a game that they probably should have won.
All right. That's the recap of week 5. Well, we're not done with what happened last week.
Oh.
We'll get to that here as soon as you're going to bring something up on the screen. Yeah. Oh, we don't want to look at pizza anytime soon.
Oh, I'm getting uncomfortable already.
Boss's Pizza and Chicken, the exclusive sponsor of NSIC Weekly, and Boss's owner, Jeremy Seefeld, is looking to expand his business in the upper Midwest. There's many cities within the NSIC and D2 in need of a good pizza and chicken joint that can easily double as a neighborhood sports bar for watching the local team. Boss's has 10 locations in the Midwest, and they are looking to grow. So if you'd like to be a potential franchisee, please visit bosspizzaandchicken.com. And in the top right corner on the home page, click on the franchise link. Let them know where you heard about potentially becoming a part of the Boss's family. And if you do that, our little show will get a nice reward. And speaking of rewards, I got a nice one Friday afternoon. With the owner-operator of D2Football.com, Brandon Meisner, on hand, Witt and Brandon attempted to consume a 28-inch pizza loaded with pepperoni, beef, and extra cheese. They had a 60-minute time limit. When the pie was delivered to the table, as you just witnessed there, their eyes were as big as saucers, but I thought they were still exuding some confidence, but it didn't take long before both their bravado and their taste buds waned. Why'd you throw in the towel, Witt, with 23 minutes on the clock and half the meal still on the table?
You know what, Tom? It was good until it wasn't. And by the way, we had more than half. We had 2/3 of that down.
No way.
Yeah, we're not going to argue about this. We knew we could get it a little bit further. But let's go back to this video again. Hold on. This guy, he was like struggling to walk it to our table. I mean, really. And then we had to recut the pizza because some of the pieces were so large. I think that was a mental block as well for me. But, why get ourselves sick and still come up a little bit short? That was kind of where we got with it. And the pepperoni ended up being spicier than we expected, which created a lather on my tongue after downing an unhealthy amount of this in a short time. So we might have made a tactical error along the way there.
I did try the pizza, the leftover pieces that were there. Tundra Man from the D2 Football Forum, D2Football.com, NSIC Forum, he was there as well. He tried it. We both are of the impression, yes, it was spicy. So if you would go with a blander, less gotcha meat, do you believe this task would be achievable? Could you get her down?
Certainly. I'm going to encourage all those who think they can get this down to have a shot at it, give it a whirl. I mean, there's no reason. There's a reason, I guess, that no one has accomplished this feat, Tom, in 2 years.
It has been done, but it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which is probably information that would have been helpful a few months ago before we started shooting our mouths off. But anyway.
Going to try it again with the knowledge you've gleaned?
Absolutely not.
Why? I mean, you're wiser now. Why not try it?
You know what? The pressure leading up to that moment, probably self-imposed, was kind of unnecessary. And we were happy to have it done with. I'll put it that way.
Were you bombarded with insults, condolences, whatever it may be from our faithful and devoted fan base?
Well, to little surprise, I've gotten a little bit more crap from you than any of our other followers. Coaches, players, or friends. I realized, that by attending, I didn't understand it at the moment, but now I get it. When you wanted to attend this challenge, you wanted to stick this back to Witt after all the hair jokes.
You invited me.
And that's why you kept asking me during every bite when I started, Witt, how are you feeling? And you were being Walter Cronkite, trying to document every moment. I'm just saying.
Dated reference, Matt Witwicky. I've shied away from them this week just to show you that I can. But apparently, you can't lay off. Okay, time now for week 6 contest as we put the pizza in the rearview mirror. The folks at Massey Computer Ratings are furnishing the point spread, if you will, establishing the line, who's the favorite, who's the underdog. And here we go. First off, we talked about Bemidji a moment ago, Witt. Beavers, they are idle this weekend. They are the only NSIC team unable to find a dance partner for their bye week in 2023. So Bemidji sits this one out. First one on the calendar there, high noon, Seafoam Stadium in St. Paul on Saturday. 2-3 Sioux Falls at 2-3 Concordia St. Paul. Massey has USF favored by 13.5. This is my game. Cougars didn't get to celebrate their homecoming with a win last weekend, thanks to Augie. I see them spoiling the Golden Bears festivities on Saturday.
CSP has 13 sacks, which puts them just behind the top few teams in the conference. I think they're going to disrupt the Cougar offense. I think USF has shown better defensively against the run the last few weeks, which will help. But Concordia, they're last also in passing efficiency offensively. So that's going to make them, this may not be the best matchup for them in that regard for the Golden Bears. But I think this is going to be a tight game. I think USF escapes with a field goal to get back to even at 3-3. I don't think they cover.
Ooh. That means they have to kick a field goal. That means they have to attempt a field goal. In 5 games, they haven't even done that yet. So we shall see.
Yes.
Next up, Minnesota Duluth, 5-0. Top 10, well, not probably top 10 material. They're not there yet, according to the pollsters. Wayne State hosting. The Wildcats are 4-1. I wasn't high on UMD before the season. We've talked about that. But the Bulldogs have proven me wrong, and I expect them to leave Wayne America grinning from ear to ear.
Well. It's a long ride from Duluth to Wayne America, and I don't think the Bulldogs I don't think that they've had someone who can punch back quite as good as the Wildcats are going to be able to at home. I like Wayne State to not only cover the spread, but to win outright.
Wow. I did not see that one coming. That'd be like me hitting Pablo Lopez's sweeper. Couldn't be done. Southwest Minnesota State is 1-4 this year after that heartbreaking loss at Valparaiso last weekend. They're at Augustana on Saturday. The Vikings still unbeaten at 5-0, and they're only favored by 27.5, according to Massey. And I see the Vikings moving on to 6-0 with almost a walk in the park.
I think the SMSU defense can keep Augie from maybe throwing the ball around the yard quite as much they did a week ago against USF. But I just don't see the Mustang offense having enough punch to keep them in this one.
All right, Coach Lockway's 3-2 MSU Moorhead Dragons at unbeaten Minnesota State Mankato. That is a 2 p.m. kick on the grass at Blakely Field. Mavericks are favored by better than 3 touchdowns. They are the NSIC's highest regarded team now that they've beaten Bemidji. I believe they have too much firepower, and they're going to slay the Dragons. See what I did there?
Yes. I'm really interested to see what this matchup looks like. Moorhead gets rid of the ball very quickly, and, to some extent that gets rid of maybe some of the disparity that they may have at the line of scrimmage, because Mankato, they run the risk of Mankato kind of dominating both sides of the line here. I think Moorhead's going to make this game interesting, but I do have Mankato in the second half kind of being able to assert themselves in that third quarter and kind of taking things over at that point.
In Bismarck on Saturday, Winona State visits the University of Mary. Winona sitting at 2-3. UMary is 0-5. Winona the favorite, 17.5 the spread, according to Massey. I see the Warriors getting back to 500, and I also see the Marauders sinking to 0-6.
Even though Winona hasn't exactly been a road warrior, see what I did there?
Yes.
And that their offense was kind of a house of horrors a week ago in Duluth. I like them to get back on the winning track because I think their defense is really going to limit the Marauders. I don't know about them covering 17.5, but as a wager, if I had a gun in my head, I would take them to cover. We'll see. And
the last game in week 6, Minot State 0-5 at 1-4. Northern State 2:30 kickoff at Dakota Bank Stadium in Aberdeen. Northern, big time favorite, 21.5, according to Massey. I see the Wolves getting their second win of 2023, easily damming up the Beavers.
Well, truth be told, Massey's they take the last few years into consideration. They put the most weight on this year, but there's a historical reference in their numbers. I don't have Northern State covering in this game. With the injuries they have at the quarterback position, and there's some uncertainty there. I do think that Northern will find a way to win this game, but I don't expect things to be easy against Minot.
All right, Karnak. What's the crystal ball say after 5 weeks? What's the one-loss totals here?
Well, it says I'm really good at this and you're not quite so much. We've got Witt at 35-1. The only game I've missed was the biggest game of the year. And Tom is 32-4. So you've got a little ways to go here. We have one difference, don't we, in this week? Me taking Wayne?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I'll either tighten it or you're going to open the gap even further.
I think we know where that's going to go.
All right. In conclusion here, I hate to ask, but is there any Jeopardy or any mailbag questions, or are you too butthurt from failing the boss's pizza challenge to bring that on?
Whoops. Was that foreshadowing? Maybe it was. So we do have a few questions. Our loyal fan base has provided us with some material for our Jeopardy segment. Now, you know what? I think that you could get all three of these right, but you know what? I don't, and I don't, there's a real chance you let me down. I'm used to that. So, let's see how you do without pulling up the stat page.
No prep whatsoever on my part.
Other than looking at this in anticipation of the Jeopardy challenge.
I haven't done that at all.
As if. So who do you think the number one rusher is in the conference?
Well, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's Sheen Butler Lawson.
Well, that's why it's not the question. The question is, who's the number two rusher in the conference?
Kyle Walljasper.
Ooh, he's starting off fast. 1 for 1. I didn't even have time to hit the music. You already had it.
I've seen both those guys in action, and they're dynamite.
So we already know who's the number one passer in the conference. We might have had his coach on earlier.
Jack Strand from Moorhead, the sophomore, yes.
Geez, you got to put the ball on the tee. So who's the number two passer in terms of yards in the conference?
Well, I'm going to say Brandon Alt.
Nope. Nick Bowen.
Nick Bowen, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I stand
So
correct.
we kind of figured you would go with Alt because that seemed like the default answer. But keep in mind, they've been running the football a little bit more this year, right? This is going to kind of make or break you at this point. So let's go see what direction we go here. What defense in the northern side? I can see you clicking around. Hands off buzzer right now. What defense is number one in yards allowed and number two in points allowed? So looking like the top defense overall.
If you would have asked me this question last week, I would have said of Augustana. It allowed 400 plus yards and 29 points. Also, maybe that got skewed. Man, good question. That's a tough question. I'm going to go with Minnesota State Mankato. No, Augustana. I'm going to stick with Augustana.
You're going to have a few guesses, and all of them are wrong. It's UMD, Minnesota Duluth.
Wow.
Fits that description as the top defense overall right now in the conference.
I wouldn't have guessed that because
No, you didn't. You're right.
The USF scored 34 points and about 370 yards of offense against them.
Yep.
Well, the other 4 games they've played, they must have been locked down defense. Well,
sometimes there's more to a season than just your game.
yeah, are we out of here for season 2, episode 7? Are we done?
I think so.
All right. The weekly podcast is a production of D2Football.com. Join the D2 community every Sunday night at 7 inside D2 Football. An intense look on Twitter, X now, also on YouTube and on Facebook. They'd love for you to check them out. That's Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. Our thanks to MSU Moorhead coach Steve Lockway for joining tonight's festivities, and to the NSIC's Nick Corner for the website info our skipper throws up on the screen as eye candy. For Matt Witwicky, this is Tom Frederick. See you next week. Another NSIC weekly podcast is just 7 days away.